Welcome, my name's Jeanette, and let me tell you an unsolved mystery that affects me personally, and I hold deep near my aging heart, along with many in my community, as it's been unsolved for over 40 years. It starts out in the Devil's Knitting Needle with Troop 404 of our local Boy Scouts. In the summer of 1976, while the rest of America was painting fire hydrants red, white, and blue for the bicentennial, a tragedy was unfolding in the dense pine-choked valleys of the Washington Cascades that would haunt the region for half a century. 14 souls, 2 adult leaders and 12 Boy Scouts from Troop 404, hiked into the shadow of the jagged rock formation known locally as the Devil's Knitting Needle. Only 10 walked out. For 48 years, the official narrative has been a clean, if tragic, line. A rogue Scoutmaster, a sudden storm, and a heroic assistant who saved the majority from a madman. It was a story that comforted the grieving parents of the 3 missing boys, one being my own son. It was a story that allowed the survivor, Assistant Scoutmaster Arthur Pym, to live a quiet life as a local hero, the man who walked 9 boys out of hell. But last month, a drought-lowered water table in Blackwood Creek revealed a rusted, watertight ammunition box buried in the silt. Inside was not bullets, but a journal wrapped in oilcloth. And what was written in those water-warped pages has reignited a cold case that the town of Ashwood thought was long dead. This is the mystery of the long hike and the 50-year lie that covered it up. To understand the disaster, you have to understand the pressure cooker that was Ashwood, Washington, in 1976. It was a logging town past its prime, grappling with a changing world. The bicentennial wasn't just a celebration. It was a desperate assertion of traditional values. Frank Sarge Halloway was the embodiment of those values, carved out of granite and regret. A Vietnam veteran who had served 2 tours in the shadowy periphery of the war, Long-Range Reconnaissance Patrol, or LRRPS, Halloway returned to Ashwood with a rigid adherence to discipline and a visible disdain for the softening of American youth. At 36, he was the Scoutmaster everyone respected, but no one liked. He believed the wilderness wasn't a playground. It was a forge. He didn't want to teach them to camp, said Martha Vance, a former PTA president who knew Halloway, in a 1980 interview. He wanted to teach them to survive a war that wasn't happening. His counterpart was Arthur Pym. At 22, Pym was soft-spoken, bespectacled, and eager to please. He was a divinity student who had never held a rifle in anger. He was the buffer between Halloway's shouting and the parents' concerns. Pym was the one who taught the boys how to tie knots. Halloway was the one who taught them how to gut a fish with a sharp rock. The 12 boys, aged 13 to 15, were a cross-section of Ashwood. But 3 of them, the 3 who would never return, stood out for different reasons. Toby Miller, 13, small, asthmatic, and the frequent target of bullying. He was there only because his father insisted the trip would make a man out of him. Simon Vane, 14, the intellectual. He carried a heavy Canon camera and a Peterson's birdwatching guide, often lagging behind to document the flora. He was the observer, the one who saw things others missed, and my sweet little boy, Patrick Patch O'Malley, 15. A troubled kid from the wrong side of the tracks, the son of a known bootlegger. He had a juvenile record for petty theft and a reputation for a quick temper. Halloway had taken a special interest in Patch, viewing him not as a delinquent, but as a project, a boy with raw potential that needed focusing. On July 14, 1976, the group disembarked from a rusted school bus at the trailhead of the Sentinel Wilderness. Their goal? A 5-day loop around the base of the Devil's Knitting Needle, a spire of basalt that pierced the sky like a warning. "Make no mistake," Holloway told the parents at the drop-off, a cigarette dangling from his lip. "I'm bringing back men." The first 2 days were brutal, but standard. The heat wave that had gripped the Pacific Northwest turned the pine forests into a convection oven. Holloway pushed a punishing pace, aiming for 12 miles a day on switchback trails. According to later police interviews with the 9 surviving boys, the atmosphere shifted on the second night. Holloway confiscated their extra rations, chocolate bars, trail mix, jerky, claiming they were gluttonous and that full bellies make for slow minds. "He wanted us hungry," said survivor Mark Elroy in a 1977 deposition. "He said hunger sharpened the senses. He made us forage for berries. He made us drink water from the stream, without iodine tablets, to build immunity." Toby Miller struggled immediately. His asthma flared in the dusty heat, his breathing sounding like a rusted gate. The other boys, sensing blood in the water and emboldened by Holloway's disdain for weakness, began to ostracize him. They called him the anchor. Arthur Pym, the assistant, tried to intervene. "Let him rest, Frank," Pym urged on the second afternoon, as Toby collapsed against a Douglas fir. "Rest is for the dead," Holloway reportedly snapped back. "Carry his pack if you love him so much, Artie, or leave him for the wolves." The dynamic of the troop began to fracture. A hierarchy formed, dictated by Holloway's cruel Darwinism. The strong, the athletes like Mark Elroy and David Kantz, were favored. The weak, Toby, the nerdy Simon, were assigned the worst chores, digging latrines, scrubbing pots with river sand. Patch O'Malley occupied a strange middle ground, hated by the other boys for his poverty, but strangely protected by Holloway, who saw a kindred violent spirit in him. When Mark Elroy tried to shove Patch into the fire pit on the second night, Holloway didn't punish Mark. He simply tossed a knife to Patch and said, "Next time, don't let him get close enough to push." It was a lesson the boys took to heart. The incident occurred on the night of July 17th. They had made camp at a location known as Dead Man's Hollow, a depression in the earth overshadowed by the spires of the Knitting Needle. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and pine resin. The official 1976 police report, based entirely on Arthur Pym's testimony and corroborated by the 9 survivors, reads as a classic breakdown scenario. At approximately 2100 hours, Scoutmaster Holloway, exhibiting signs of mental instability and extreme agitation, woke 3 scouts, Miller, Vane, and O'Malley. He claimed he was taking them on a night navigation initiation. Mr. Pym attempted to stop him, but Holloway threatened him with a hunting knife, holding it to Mr. Pym's throat. Holloway marched the 3 boys into the darkness. 2 hours later, 3 distinct gunshots were heard. Mr. Pym, fearing a massacre, gathered the remaining 9 scouts and fled in the opposite direction, down the ravine. It was a clean narrative. The crazy vet snapped. He marched the 3 outcasts into the woods and executed them, then likely killed himself or died of exposure. A massive manhunt was launched. Helicopters crisscrossed the canopy. Hundreds of volunteers combed the brush. They found nothing. No bodies, no weapon, no Holloway. Just the vast, indifferent wilderness. Pym was hailed as a savior. The town threw him a parade. He was the gentle shepherd who had protected the flock from the wolf. But the journal found in Blackwood Creek belonged to my wonderful son, Simon Vane, the birdwatcher. Thankfully, Simon was always a meticulous note-taker throughout school. The journal entries from the final days paint a very different picture of Frank Halloway. They suggest that the danger wasn't the man leading the troop, but the troop itself. July 15th, 1976. It's getting weird. Mark and David aren't listening to Artie anymore. They only listen to Sarge, but they look at him with hate? No, not hate. Like they're studying him. Like he's prey. I saw Mark sharpening a stick into a spear today. He spent 3 hours on it. He named it the Judge. July 16th, 1976. Sarge is angry, but not at us. He's angry at Mark and David. He caught them stealing food from Toby's pack and pouring water into his sleeping bag to freeze him out. I thought Sarge was going to hit them. Instead, he just stared. He told them, "Cruelty isn't strength, it's a rot." It's weird. I thought Sarge hated Toby. Now I think he's watching him, keeping him close. July 17th, 1976. Afternoon. The atmosphere is poisonous. The heat is making everyone crazy. The guys are getting worse. Without parents around, they've turned into a pack. They cornered Patch near the latrine today. 4 of them. Patch pulled a knife, but Artie, Mr. Pym, stopped it. But Artie didn't yell at the bullies. He yelled at Patch. He took Patch's knife. Artie looks scared. Not of Sarge. He looks scared of the boys. He keeps looking at Mark like Mark is the adult. July 17th, 1976. 9:30 p.m. Sarge woke me up. He whispered so the others wouldn't hear. He has Toby and Patch with him. He looks terrified. He said, "We have to go. Now." He's not taking us for initiation. He's evacuating us. He said something about Artie. He said, "Artie lost control of the pack. They want blood." We are leaving the camp quietly. We are heading for the stone cleft near the ridge. I can hear Mark laughing by the fire. It doesn't sound right. It sounds like a coyote. The journal ends there. The ink on the final period is dragged, as if the book was slammed shut in a hurry. The discovery of the journal last month prompted the King County Sheriff's Office to reopen the search, focusing on the stone cleft mentioned in Simon's final entry. Using modern LiDAR drones, technology that strips away the vegetation to reveal the earth beneath, searchers identified a geological anomaly 3 miles east of the original 1976 search grid. Authorities descended on the site with excavators and cadaver dogs, anticipating the resolution to a 50-year-old mystery. The media vans returned to Ashwood, sensing a gruesome finale. They found the cleft. It matched Simon's description perfectly, down to the split-tooth rock formation at the entrance that had been hidden by 50 years of blackberry brambles. But inside, the cave was empty. There were no skeletal remains, no scraps of clothing, no rusted .22 caliber rifle. The cave floor was clean, save for decades of accumulated silt and animal debris. It was a hollow chamber, silent and cold. However, buried 6 inches deep in the dirt near the entrance, forensics recovered a single object, preserved by the dry soil near the cave mouth. A plastic Ventolin inhaler, 1970s vintage. The inhaler confirms they were there. Toby Miller, the asthmatic scout, had stood in that cave. He had likely clutched that inhaler in terror as he waited for the pack to find them. But where did they go? The soil analysis suggests a massive landslide occurred in the ravine below the cave, sometime in the late 70s or early 80s. If Halloway and the boys tried to move down the mountain in the dark to escape, or if they were flushed out and pushed, they could be buried under 40 feet of earth and rock, half a mile from the cave. Or, as one retired detective suggested off the record, the woods are big. If you want to hide a body, you bury it. If you want to hide a murder, You let the mountain do it for you. The journal presents a horrifying implication that Holloway wasn't the villain, but the protector, that he broke protocol to save the vulnerable boys from a Lord of the Flies scenario enacted by the strong clique. A clique that Arthur Pym was too weak to control, or perhaps complicit in appeasing. But proving it is another matter entirely. The strong boys, the ones who walked out, maintained a lifelong brotherhood. They went into business together. Mark Elroy, the supposed ringleader, became a wealthy real estate developer who donated a new gymnasium to the Ashwood High School. He died of a heart attack in 2004. David Kantz, his lieutenant, became a beloved high school principal before dying in a car accident in 1992. They took the secret to their graves. That left Arthur Pym. 2 weeks ago, investigators visited the nursing home in Spokane, where Pym, now 70 and suffering from advanced dementia, resides. The interview was recorded. When the detective read the journal entries to him, specifically the line about him losing a control of the pack, Pym's reaction was not a confession, but a moment of the sudden, lucid agitation. He tried to stand up from his wheelchair. "Frank shouldn't have taken them," Pym muttered, his eyes wide, looking at something the detectives couldn't see. "He broke the chain." "You can't break the chain. Once the dogs start running, you can't call them back." "Did the boys hurt Frank?" the detective asked. "Did Mark hurt Frank?" Pym shut down. He stared at the wall, his lucid moment gone, replaced by the fog. He repeated the same phrase he has used since 1976, a mantra worn smooth by repetition. "The wilderness took them. It was a tragedy. Just a tragedy." He died in his sleep 3 days later, taking the final piece of the puzzle with him. The case remains technically open, but functionally cold. The Ashwood Sheriff's Department has stated that, without physical remains or a confession, they cannot change the official cause of death. We are left with 2 stories. We have the official story, the madness of Frank Holloway, the heroism of Arthur Pym, and the tragic loss of 3 boys to a madman's whim. This is the story engraved on the bronze memorial plaque in Ashwood's town square, polished by the hands of grieving mothers for decades. And now we have the journal story. A terrifying mutiny in the woods, a Scoutmaster attempting a desperate rescue of the bullied outcasts, and a cover-up that has lasted half a century, bound by the silence of men who were once cruel boys. The strong boys lived long, full lives. They raised families. They were pillars of the community. The weak boys remain missing, their final hours a matter of speculation. Did Holloway die defending them? Did the pack hunt them down like game? Or did the mountain simply swallow them up as they fled into the dark, 4 shadows running from 9? The wind howling through the devil's knitting needle offers no answers. The woods keep their secrets, and in Ashwood, the parents of Toby, Simon, and Patch are left with a rusted ammo box, a plastic inhaler, and a truth that feels closer than ever, yet impossibly, eternally out of reach. As you can see, we in the community still have heavy hearts and hope for this mystery to be solved someday. But you can help spread awareness and subscribe and like this video so we can keep the spirits and hopes alive. Thank you.